Hello and good evening. Welcome to the next episode of Better You by Ania. Tonight we will be talking about change. So it's a topic that I think most of you, if not all of you, will find very interesting. I am just waiting for my guest to join. Let's hope it won't take very long. We seem to have some technical issues. Usually these occur, but we shall be patient and we should persevere. Ludivine, I can see you now and I am adding. So looks like we will be going live in just a moment and starting our content.
Yes.
Hello.
It is working. What?
Yes, I had no doubts. It would.
We would manage it, yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much for joining. I think we are both good for light and position.
Seems okay.
So wonderful. Good evening. And I was just thinking that, you know, sometimes things happen in a funny way, because I was at a conference today, Women of Wisdom in Cascais, and the last presenter was talking about transformations, and that apparently it's estimated that women go through 20 to 50 transformations in their life. And she was also mentioning that women, because of our nature, tend to be more emotional going through change. And we tend to find it more challenging. And after the presentation, I approached her and I said, look how funny, can I have a word with you? So I sound wiser tonight. So thank you for joining. And since you are here, I can also see, I will just say that if there is any viewer, please identify yourself. Would be nice to hear from you.
Yes.
But we will be obviously observing, and as people join, we will say a quick hello. But other than this, we will start with introductions. I will let you go first, and then I quickly introduce myself, and we will move on to questions, okay?
Okay.
So
sorry, I didn't just freeze.
I didn't hear you.
It's okay. No, it's better, but
okay.
So I just didn't hear the end of it.
If it keeps freezing, do something about it. Okay.
Okay. So I'll start by introducing myself. I'm a French psychiatrist. I did my medical curriculum in Paris, and I worked after that a lot with children and in maternity wards also, so with mothers and babies. And then I had my practice in Paris, and now I've been in Lisbon for 4 years, and I get my practice here when I see women, women, men, and children also. And I see a lot of people dealing best they can with change, but it's not always easy. So I think it's a very important topic, actually.
Fantastic. Thank you for the introduction, and I'm so happy that my guest finds the suggested topic interesting, because I thought this is certainly something I have been speaking to friends, I have been speaking to my clients, and this topic certainly seems to resonate with everyone.
Yes.
So before we move on, just a quick introduction from my side for those that don't know me. My name is Ania Iwanicka. I work as a holistic health coach. So I help women to achieve their health and well-being goals, to improve their health and well-being. And because I'm a coach, I am basically by their side, helping them to achieve those goals rather than dictating them what to do. And we are making the transformation together, if you like. And what I also do, I try to partner and network and partner with experts from health and well-being areas. So the purpose of these talks that I do, these interviews that I do, is that women can watch the talks and then search for something that resonates with them, and then delve deeper into this particular area, be it acupuncture, be it a session with an expert like you, be it a naturopathic doctor. So this is the purpose. And once again, if there is any viewer, please say a quick hello. It would be lovely if we have some dialogue during the session as well. So I will move on to the questions now.
Yeah.
Just to remind the viewers, we are talking tonight about changes, the life changes, and what to do, how to go through the changes so our health and well-being gets affected the least. Okay, so we kind of ride on the wave of change rather than get covered by water, ideally. So my first question, as we know, and we tend to hear and repeat very often, is that change is the only constant in life. Change is something that is guaranteed, that occurs all the time as we go through life. And we all seem to know it, we all seem to accept it and understand it, yet for some reason we remain quite resilient to change. And you being this expert, I would like to hear your opinion and wise words from you about why is this, because I cannot understand it for myself.
Okay, well, as you say, change is a constant. You just need to see a baby grow up and see, oh, as soon as you think you've settled in a kind of day routine, it just changes and you have to settle back and find a new balance. And then when we grow old, we tend to try to keep all things together and nothing moves. But it's not life, obviously. And we're acting like this because we are somehow tuned to do like this by our brain. Our brain is tuned in two ways that impact this. The first one is that from birth, as a protective system, we tend to turn to familiarity for comfort and security. A newborn, even a few hours old, will be more easily soothed by his mother because he knows a voice, a heartbeat, even a smell from all the in utero period. And all our life, we will tend to act the same way and to keep things the more familiar we can, just to find comfort and security. So that's one of the... And also, the second things that has an impact on our way to deal with change is that our brain, to make sense of our very complex reality, and it's getting more and more complex every day, has to build patterns, just so we don't have to think about everything all the time. And patterns goes from the view of ourselves, how we are, the view of the world. Are we lovable, or do we have a good self-esteem? Are we some nice person or not? And is the world nice or not nice? Or we build a model of all this, and we build a vision of ourselves and of the world. And also, dealing with this complicated world, we build some defense mechanism that help us get through difficult times. And we build them when it happens, when we need them, but we build them with the capacities, competencies we have at that age. Like a 3 years old doesn't have the same strategy than a 10 years old than an adult. So obviously we don't build the same kind of defense mechanism. So all along the life, we will build them, and they're tuned for that period of time, that situation, that moment. But also, our brain tends to generalize stuff. And so when we learn that it worked in one situation, we will also use it in a related one. And so we tend to use it in more ways, and it becomes part of us in some way. So that's the way there's lots of more stuff, but in the change discussion we have, I think that's the way we function. And when change comes in, it's just the opposite of all that I said. There is new stuff you don't know how to deal with. You have to find other ways. You have to be creative. And your brain is not, if it could just stick to what it knows how to do, you really would rather do that. So we are resistant to change for that reason. And also because it's often letting go some stuff. And even if that stuff is not so good because we want to change, so it's not easy to let go old stuff and to dive into the unknown and just, okay, how is it going to be? So it can wake up a lot of fears of being alone, fears of not being able to deal with all that, fears of being wrong, being going the wrong direction too. So all of this makes that sometimes we're just paralyzed, freezed, and okay, I know I have to change, but maybe if I don't move, it will work. Well, it doesn't, obviously. So you ultimately you have to move. I mean, life is movement too. It's change. Life change is a constant in life, but movement too. You can't stay like this and not working. But it requires either really some kind of trust in life that it will be for the better. It depends. We will see later which side you're on, optimistic or pessimistic one. But if you're an optimistic person, you can have the feeling that whatever the change, even if it's difficult, even if you lose something, it will be good. And then it helps you go through and step out of the fear and just go with it. Or sometimes it requires just some kind of survival instinct that tells you, okay, you really have to change something, because if not, it will be really bad. And but often it's one or the other. What I often hear people say when I see them in my practice, it's, I had no choice. I had to do this. I had to move. I had to change country. I had to leave my husband. I had to leave job. I had to lots of stuff. But it was a survival decision. I had to do it. Because if we don't have that kind of feeling that pushes us, we tend to stay where we are and not move.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's interesting and what you are telling us, but also it makes a lot of sense that as we grow, we develop certain pathways in our brain, and it's both comfortable and useful, right, to have them. And then when change occurs, suddenly we are asked to do something new. And the resilience probably comes also from laziness sometimes. My next question.
More economic.
I have questions here. More economic, exactly. We are trying to be smarter in this sense. You know, what I would like to try, because it looks like my Wi-Fi connection is not good. I will see if I can quickly change to the network. And in case I disappear, I will appear again. But hopefully I won't. Okay, let me try very quickly.
Okay, so I just...
Stayed with this great smile. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you still there?
Well, you're back. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and I can hear you, but you are still not moving. But let's see for now if it works.
Okay.
If anything, you can always leave and come back. But hopefully we will be able to see you move soon as well. Sorry for this to our viewers, but it will work better now. You know, Ludivine, if you want, you can actually close the chat and come back. That should do the trick.
Okay, because I see you moving, but I'm still freezed.
Yes? Exactly, you are freezed. You look lovely, but you are freezed.
Okay, so I just close it
and come back, please. Okay, sorry guys, technical hitch. I had to actually switch to the network internet rather than rely on Wi-Fi, all for your benefit. And I see that we have few viewers. Thank you for being with us. Sophie, Renata, lovely to see you. Hopefully she's back and I'm not adding her. No. the guest. And yeah. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, better?
Fantastic. You are back. Yes,
Okay.
amazing. It will be much better now, I promise. Sorry for this.
No problem.
Yes. So my next question, as you already kind of mentioned in this introduction, let's say, that there can be many kind of changes. Okay, so we might be, I don't know, moving country, changing jobs, getting into relationship, exiting relationship, having a baby. And you know, all these changes can have a huge probability of happening. However, what also happens sometimes is that several changes happen at once. So here I would say probably that my question would be twofold. I would be really interested as a woman to hear, what do you tend to see in your practice? What changes do women typically tend to struggle most with? And also, what is the, you know, how to handle these multiple changes? Because, you know, if you have one going, you kind of can somehow navigate. But when several hit you at once, you know, we say, I think I will go crazy. And this is actually quite not far from the truth, I think.
Yes, well, I start with the first one. There are changes that are difficult for everyone, woman or not. And then there are more specific for women, I would say. The changes that are more complicated for most people are the ones that are sudden, unpredictable, unprepared, because you didn't know it was going to happen. You didn't have time to prepare for it, to think about it, to realize it was coming, or it just crashes down and your world just seems to fall apart. And this, being a man or woman, is always complicated. The other one that is also very kind of change that is complicated is a change you are subjected to. You didn't choose what is happening. Maybe you choose to go along for a lot of very good reason. I don't know, your husband has a very good job abroad and you want to stay with your husband, obviously. So you just go along, but it's not your choice. It's not your change. And if you don't find a way to accept that and find a change for you or a project for you, well, you won't be dealing very well with it, actually. And that's the stuff I see a lot. And that affects more women because maybe we tend more to go along
yes,
than men do in this world.
And
so
yes, so we do it and then we have to deal with it.
Exactly. And it's not so easy. Another change that is very difficult to deal with is a change when you're alone, that you have to deal with alone, even if it's only one change. But it's always a lot more difficult to deal without being able to share that experience. Even being a good or a bad change, being alone is always more difficult. And there is another kind of change you are alone with, which can seem strange, but it's a good change, the good ones, like having a baby. And for some people, it's hard, and it's hard to deal with. But how can you share it with someone when all your friends are like, oh, it's so cute, you must be so happy, and you're just, no, I just want to cry all day long. And you can't say that. I mean, maybe to a very close friend, but most of the time you just say, haha, it's so cute. And
Lovely.
You don't. And you stay with that all alone, and it's more complicated to deal with. Women tend to have more difficulties to deal with change that are more affective. Well, not that the change is effective, but when it goes to the emotional, sentimental way, because we tend to be more emotional. So even changing job can get emotional because we have the problem with our boss, or we don't want to leave a colleague, or in many ways.
Or we miss friends from the previous.
Or we miss friends, or the emotional part can be a difficult part to deal with. And sometimes men deal with that better than us because they can get easily more detached. But some women can do that too, but that's often something more difficult for women. And then how to handle multiple changes. Well, yes, sometimes you just feel like life is throwing everything together. And you're just, okay. And I see that a lot of time because, as you said, dealing with one change is stressful, but you deal with it. Dealing with two, okay. 3 or 4 and more than 4 is just. But sometimes life is like this. I mean, you're, I don't know, you're getting into a relationship, he wants to live abroad, and then so you move abroad and you have a baby. Or you leave your husband and you have to find a new flat, you move, you have to change your children of school, and maybe even changing job because you change city. I don't. Life is often like this. And it's overwhelming and it's a lot to deal with all at one time. So one way to deal with it is to cut it in pieces and try to go one step at a time. Find your priorities, find what is really important for you every day and deal with it. Even if obviously in your mind you have the overall picture of all that is going on, but you can deal with all of it at the same time. So it's just not, and there are stuff that you can deal with now, other stuff you will have to deal in 1 month or 2 months, but you're already thinking about, oh, you will do that. But just keep it simple, one thing at a time, and this helps already to make things just bearable, even if obviously it's complicated. But
yes, I like this idea. I think where the problem for women comes from in case of dealing with multiple changes is that naturally we are multitaskers.
Yes, so we tend to try and do
we can
everything.
hold it all together, that we can address it all at once, but actually no, as you are explaining.
No, sometimes, yeah, that was my second point. We're not, I mean, we need to be gentle to ourselves, and we're not superwoman, and we can't do everything at the same time. It's just not possible, even if we try every day to do it, but in fact it is not. So it's a rough time, it's difficult, and you have to remember you're doing your best on that day, with your mood during that day and what is happening, and you can do more than that. And if you ask yourself to do more and to do everything like perfectly and to be happy and everything is good, and no, won't work. Someday could collapse and really impact your health, your mental health or your physical health in a way. So you have to be a little indulgent with yourself, actually. Well, we all do. So another thing to remember, I was speaking about what is difficult is to be alone, is that you don't have to be alone. Sometimes it's difficult to find someone to help, but you don't have to be alone, and you don't have to do everything by yourself. You can ask for help, I don't know, friends, neighbors, other people in the same situation, colleagues even that are dealing a bit with the same stuff, or but really it helps not being alone with that. And the other stuff is to keep some kind of safe place. I will speak more about it in the next part, but because sorry, stuff is popping on, because unsafe place can be a lot of stuff. It's just where you feel good. So it can be an activity, like it can be a place, real place, your room or anything
physical
else.
Place.
A physical place, seeing friends. I mean, whatever makes you feel good. Just stick to it during that difficult time, because you will need all the good, all the energy that you will use on the other side to deal with all that. You really will need it. And also, as human beings, we tend to forget all this. And even if we have a good routine, healthy life, we do physical activity, meditation, all sorts kind of stuff, we eat well and blah, blah. Once we're in difficult situation, we tend to forget all this and stop, because I know I don't have time to go to yoga, or I don't have time to go running, And I don't remember which one, but there was a Buddhist monk that was saying, okay, if you think about skipping meditation, do twice more, because it means that you really need it even more. And it's very true, but we don't function like this. So it's hard, very hard to try and stick to all these good things when things are not so easy. So we have to keep it in mind.
I love those tips because, and particularly, of course, because of my profession and what I am trying to help my clients with, particularly I liked when you said, you know, look after yourself, okay? Yeah. Because I remember a long time ago, I was going through a major change, and at the time, a very wise person said to me, you know what you need to do first and foremost? Imagine that you are pregnant and take care of yourself for the next 9 months as if you were taking care not only of yourself, but, you know, a baby growing inside you. Because this was kind of something to help me to understand that, no, I still need to stick to the healthy routine, the diet, the exercise. So I love the fact that you are bringing this up, and also, you know, prioritizing, because we are good at multitasking, not always at prioritizing, dissecting, taking one step at a time and taking one day at a time, right? So getting successfully through the, you know, the next day. And what I would like to add here is actually something, this is gonna sound very wise, but this is actually something that was shared today by one of the speakers at the conference. And I really loved it, and it really, really helped me to understand something. And I hope that by sharing this, I will help other people. Because, you know, when we are going through change that is, change, I don't know, let's say we get ill, something really bad happens in our life, people tend to be very supportive, and people really offer us a lot of support and love and care. So there is always someone. It's very rare that we find ourselves on our own. Yes. But when we are going through other changes, imagine that you decide, I don't know, I was a doctor, but no, you know what, my calling is to be an artist. I quit this. What I notice is that during changes like this, it's hard to get support from friends. Yes. Okay. And when I was going through changes like this, I actually felt let down by people, truly, because I thought, are they really my friends if they are not here for me and not helping me through this? And this person described something today, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is it. I now understand. She said, look at when you are going through a major transformation, major change, make a list of your friends and put them into columns. One is that this will be friends called anchors, and the other, and I think she called them, not engines, but something like this. So basically she was describing anchors are energizers. And she said anchors are the friends that are there to look after you, like your mother, let's say. Your mother wants you to be well. And when you are telling people that you are a doctor today, but actually tomorrow you will be a, you know, actor or an artist, for them it's not that they are not supporting you as a person, as a friend, it's just that they worry about you. So that's why they are not there, like, you know, with that transparent, go for it, go for it. And that's where we go wrong, because we think, oh my gosh, these people are not by my side, they are not helping me. But then there are those energizers who are, of course, the people who say, go for it, do it, absolutely. So she said, identify these friends, and as you are going through the change, make sure that you actually have people on each side, and pull from whichever side you need. And she said, be careful, because of course, even with energizers, you cannot only be surrounded by energizers, because otherwise you will start doing stupid things and stupid changes. Yes. And on the other hand, when you were speaking about, imagine like we moved to a new country, and maybe we, of course, we still have friends wherever we lived, but they may not be here to meet for coffee or dinner or glass of wine. to talk things through. And this is where this person was saying, you know what, then decide, do you need energizers, do you need these anchors, and then go out, look for networks, because there are networks, right? And there are people, yes, like you were saying, there are people who've been through similar experience, and it really offers a lot of comfort. As we are speaking now, yes, about change, what people are going through, you said that clients come and have multiple changes. Sometimes when change hits us, we think we are the only one. That's it.
No, and it's what I learned. I worked also with traumatized people, or people really going through very hard stuff like losing a baby, or and what they all say is what helps them the most is group of discussion of people who have been through the same thing, because with them they could really speak about it, and they know they would understand. And I know going abroad is not the same, but finding people, networks of people that are going through the same stuff is really helpful to see that, okay, others are also living it. Oh, did they deal with it? Maybe it's not the way you want to deal with it, but at least you see that people can deal with it. Yes. They've managed it in a way. And sharing all these experiences is really very important.
Fantastic.
To keep a positive state of mind.
Yes, I believe we are helping others through discussing this. So my third question is around the fact we are trying to talk here today about how to navigate change, or navigate through times of change, so our health and well-being doesn't get affected by it. But let's pretend for a moment that our health and well-being got affected by it, okay? And suddenly we develop either, some sort of, I don't know, depression or anxiety. It's a very human thing. And then what do we do then? Because obviously in moments like this, we also feel we are on our own. Sometimes we don't feel comfortable to admit it, to share it with people, which is of course not necessarily the right thing to do, because the person next to us might have just dealt with the same thing yesterday. And could be here helping us and making us feel better. But what is so imagine that this has happened. What is your advice for, getting through and out of this, again, as soon as possible, but in the kindest way possible, okay? Not just by swallowing pill, for example, to make us feel happier in the brain, but what can we do?
Well, there is... the first thing is to try and change the focus and try to be more positive. And well, we'll speak about it a bit later, but and sometimes it's hard, because when you're not feeling well, feeling all alone in a new place, or it's hard to try and say, okay, I know it's hard, but let's find 3 positive stuff, anything every day. It's not so easy, but it helps go back to the positive side. Even if it's just for 5 minutes a day, it's already better. Also, what I see is that anxiety is very often caused because we feel trapped in something. Either we didn't choose, or that we have to make a decision and we don't do it, or because we feel a bit passive, like our life is just passing by and we're not living it, we're not getting
not in the driver's seat.
Yes, and one of the things is to get back in the driver's seat, to regain control on the situation. And so one of the way is to use these resources we're talking about, all the things that make you feel good and that you can act on, because obviously in a changing situation there are stuff you can change yourself, you can act on, and there are stuff you cannot. I mean, if your husband left you, he's left, you can so well, yeah, you can try, but once you've tried and it's really over, okay, so you cannot act on this, but you can act on the way you see it, on the way you live it, on what you want to do with it at the end. So using these resources, and resources can be, as I said, it can be friend, it can be Reading, hot baths, listening to music, obviously sports, but like walking in the forest, drawing, all that stuff. And I said earlier that when we're not feeling well, we tend to forget about them. So it's kind of useful to have a list somewhere. We all have lots of lists in our mobile phone or stuff, or just a list of stuff that you can get to when you're not feeling well. Oh yes, I forgot, but this, or last time when I was not so well, I did this and it worked. Or because what I see is that most people know what makes them feel better. They just forget it when they're not well. And it's different for each one. I mean, personally, having a hot bath and listening to music is a very good thing. Maybe other people it doesn't work at all. So you have to know you know yourself better than anyone else, and it's important to have your tools and your way to deal with it. And of course, what works really well on anxiety, aside from pills, but I mean, it's not the first resource we want to use, and lots of people don't want to have them anyway, so it's important to have other ones, is physical exercise that is showed to be a good way to tune down stress, but at least 3 times a week, 45 minutes, not to be effective on the long. I mean, I don't know, running half an hour will get your level of stress down for 2 hours after that anyway. But if you repeat it 3 times a week, it will end up to work on the long term.
Of course.
And so it's a different action. And also meditation, relaxation, mindfulness, all this technique used daily. I mean, every day, but it can be 10 minutes or 15 minutes every day. But I mean, probably you know that even better than I do. But the studies show that it really changes the way the brain works, and it really helps for anxiety or depression. The hard stuff is that when you're down, starting to use this technique is difficult. Correct. It's really easier to use them when you already know them than just to, I mean, it's not like running. You cannot just take your shoes and go outside and say, okay, I will start running. Meditation or mindfulness you need a little practice for it to be effective, to know it works. And learning anything when you're down is a lot more difficult. So usually I don't advise it to people who have never done it before, if they're not well, because they don't know how to use it and it won't really work.
I don't know if you agree with me, but I think that the tip here is like reach out to an expert in this case, because
that was the end of it. When it doesn't, if you cannot deal with it alone or with friends or all the people, the resources you have around you and in you, then it's reaching out to a therapist or a psychiatrist or even your doctor that knows you very well. It works too, because sometimes you need a professional advice and you just don't manage to deal alone, and it's okay. It's just that it's too much.
Exactly, because when I speak to some clients who deal, anxiety is something that is very common in women. Yes, to be very common. So, for example, you know, when I tell them that people not often realize this, but when you mentioned earlier that eating healthy is important, looking after yourself, people tend to turn to food like lots of chocolate and sugar during this sort of fast food, comforting food, but they don't realize one thing. And when they speak to an expert, then they click and they want to do it, because foods can be obviously very nourishing and healing, and food is for our brain. So having a lot of healthy fats, right, really helps our brain to function better, and eliminating sugar really exactly has shown to lower the anxiety, because you are not having the spikes of insulin, and also you remove this guilt kind of part from you.
Yes.
Another thing is you said listening to the music. I was reading the other day and I tried, and I think, yeah, I tend to agree that, for example, listening to reggae seems to work very well because it has this beat. And this beat is a happy beat for our brain. Then you mentioned about sports, but you know, there can be moments when we are restricted in sports. Like you mentioned about women having a baby, being pregnant. Well, she cannot go running, but she can go for a walk in the forest or by the sea or wherever in nature, because again, nature has been
helps
proven exactly to calm us down. So this is why I said that, you know, that sometimes we try to deploy the techniques ourselves. And look, we may know, like you mentioned about meditation, it's very true. They say that if you know, have time, do it for 20 minutes. If you don't, do it for 2 hours, because that's when you need it the most. And, you know, even like I can say that I know a lot of theories about all these tools. And then when I sometimes feel, you know, nervous about something, it's hard for me to make the action, the move, but I know I guess I've learned how to push myself. But this is why I say, and you repeated, that reaching to a person that can help us to see and explain why. You know, that sometimes we need that reason to actually eat avocado rather than ice cream, okay? Listen to music rather than watch something crappy on television, like news that will only make us feel more crappy. So really interesting. I really enjoy it. And I think it's something that can be easily implemented and, you know, helpful. So the following question is that, it's very interesting because it's about the changes. Like we changes can be applied to absolutely everything, anything and everything. Thank you for the heart, Renata. So it can be we are changing job for a better one. We are entering into a new relationship, and that's exciting. We are having a baby, and that's wonderful, you know, so on and so forth. But then there are also changes that are not necessarily, we tend to label changes. No, we say, oh, it's a change for better, or we say this is a really bad thing because I got ill or my partner walked away. And then what we tend to do is, as I said, say it's either good or bad, but actually, you know, you can only really tell sometime down the line, looking back. And very often, I'm not saying that always a divorce is a good thing, but very often, you know, you look back and you say, okay, I understand this and this happened and it led me to this new wonderful thing. So how do we, how can we get better at this, so we don't necessarily, when this change happens, we don't necessarily label it with a loss, but we kind of at least give it a try to see it as an opportunity. Like what is in our, I would like to understand it from scientific kind of point, you know, how our brain works. How can we trick it?
It's hard to trick it because with change, well, we can trick ourselves, but I don't know if it's the best way to do it. Change is a loss, and before you can see it as an opportunity, you have to deal with that loss and grieve that loss in a way, and then you can see the opportunity. That's why most of the time we see the good stuff when it's a complicated situation, like when the stressful period is over and suddenly you said, okay, I came in peace with this and now I can move on to something positive and better. And even with happy changes, you lose something. Anyway, it's just that when you're going for something you want and that is supposed to be happy, well, you have good reasons to let go others, so it's more easy to deal with that. And most of the time you choose it too, so it's easier. When you have I don't know, when you get married, you lose some stuff, but you choose the other, so it's okay. And but when you get divorced, even if you choose to to go away, you lose all the life you've been building for I don't know how many years before, in a way. And grieving that, grieving the relationship, grieving all the hopes and stuff you had put in it, might take some time. And it's okay, because you need that time to just get over it and then be able to open to other stuff. And sometimes, I mean, we live in a very positive society. Everyone has to be happy, but sometimes in life, well, you're sad because you lose something, or you're angry because you lose something too. But and it's okay, and accepting it and letting go and going past it is kind of the only way to get somewhere else. Because if not, the risk is to stay stuck in that sadness or in that anger and getting really into something pathological is a big word, but that's not good for your mental health, like depression or anxiety, because you couldn't deal with it, and couldn't move on to something else. And there is also our state of mind, being optimistic or pessimistic, as we will say later. Some people, even if like the worst situation, you see them and they manage to see positive aspect of it, and you're just, okay, how is it possible? But they do. And whatever the situation, it's just, and others, even in good changes, will always see the downfall, the bad part, the negative aspect of it anyway. And it will be harder for them, of course, to deal with and to go along and to just accept that sometimes, yes, changes happen and you have to go with it. You can not do any other way. When you're stuck in it, what helps, apart from meditation, that is a way also to take distance with your life and what is happening and feeling centered again, or yoga, or all that kind of practice that helps you get more centered on yourself and not on what is happening all around, is also to make sense of what is going on, either by writing it, just writing all the thoughts that are coming about all this, and maybe it's a big mess at the start, but usually you start seeing connections and seeing how it works and finally making sense of it. And that's a very good way to achieve closure in a way. And that's also what people say in therapy, is that just telling their stories sometimes, just chronically saying everything, and sometimes say, I hadn't seen this and why, and because they're just putting their thoughts in order and everything in the good place,
and we repeat the same
puzzle fits in, and it makes them to and it's also a way to make the brain works again, because when you're stuck in a bad place with anxiety or fear, or your emotions are overwhelming and your brain sometimes just shuts down, doesn't work anymore. And putting the brain back to work by writing, telling stuff, even speaking about emotions. But speaking about emotions is not living your emotions. It's already a bit of a distance from them. All this allows us to regain a bit of control, to put the brain back on again, and to digest all that is going on. I don't
know. Interesting, very interesting. But you know what I really liked and would like to kind of underline here is this part when you said that you need a period as well of grief. Okay, so because again we try to, or we think that world demands from us to be brave, to adapt very easily. So we move from one thing to another, and it's happy days and look how strong I am. And actually we should, and this is part of self-care and taking care of our health and well-being, that we allow ourselves actually this for this vulnerability, for crying and feeling sad and crap and whatnot. Of course, we don't want to get stuck in this, but we should allow ourselves a period of this, right? And then, as you said, again, I guess it's turning then to people who may help us. It can be an expert like you. It can be friend if you have a reliable friend. Because as you said, talking about it, you know, for some people who meditate, that meditation may help. But if they don't already meditate and they are feeling awful, that's the last thing they're gonna try and do, right? So, but then speaking to a friend about it may open up new paths of thinking. I think you are giving us very, very useful tips, and hopefully, you know, women will feel more brave about crying over something rather than just pretending that we are strong and brave and life is wonderful, because sometimes it's just not.
It's not. Yeah. And I had a patient, she allowed herself crap days. Not every day, but sometimes said, okay, it's a crap day. Today I'll just like stay in bed and cry, and okay, and tomorrow will be better. But she managed to allow herself those kind of moments, and instead of fighting them and ending up really sick, well, they were just going out, and then she would overcome it, and then she would be better, and it was fine. So yes, crap days.
Fantastic. But what or crap hour, right? If we can do it more quick, if we can wrap it up quicker. I wanted to ask you, because I hear some people, again, doctors nowadays advising screaming. Let's say that when you feel frustrated, because you need to spend that energy somehow, right? And if you are not going to go for a run or sprint or whatever, or you are not, you know, training boxing, which could be very beneficial, that it's sitting in you, and they advise screaming. And of course, nowadays most of us tend to live in cities, and I'm afraid that if I started to scream, the neighbors would feel alarmed.
No, it's complicated. Yes, we need to scream sometimes. In the car, it's a very good place.
Exactly.
I have lots of patients that are screaming in the car, actually, because it's, in our modern day life in the cities, I mean, you can't just go in the wood and take a branch and beat some trees or scream. But sometimes we need that. And we need to get that anger out. I mean, they're building fury rooms. I think one is opening in Lisbon, actually, where you go in and like for half an hour or an hour, I don't know, you can break everything. You can scream, you can break, you can throw stuff, you can... so sometimes we need to do that. And it's better to do it in a controlled way.
Of course.
Than to start throwing everything at home and in front of others but yes, we need to sometimes. And I see a lot of anxious people that in fact are very angry about their life, about stuff, and as we are in a society where you cannot express anger, it just builds in, and then it makes a whole mess of anger, and they don't know how to deal with it, and it just starts to pop out for anything, and it's really hard to deal with.
And you see, it's cultural, right? Because here, what I've noticed by moving to Portugal is that people tend to express their emotions more and tend to raise their voices more. And then for me, coming here, having spent 17 years in England, it's a new thing. So sometimes when people do this, I think they are being aggressive and they are shouting, whilst obviously this is just expressing themselves. Because in England, you obviously, you have the Queen, and you're supposed to keep calm and carry on. And that's something very, it's as I just wanted to say, it's very cultural. And I heard recently that in Japan, they built these fury rooms into the offices, because again, their culture is very much about being this, you know, exactly. And apparently it works very well for workers, that they go, this room is soundproof, and they can just go there and scream out, and exactly. So that's a good tip. I tend to sing out loud in a car. God forbidden someone recording me one day, but that helps because you can also scream a little bit. Perfect. And then, you know, pessimist optimism, right?
Yes.
Because it's of course we would all love to be optimistic, and
but we're not.
And it's easy to be optimistic when the problem doesn't, you know, it's not personal, it's not about us. We think, okay, I think I would see it in a more positive way, judging a person next to me. So we are not, as you said, but what can we do to kind of train to be more glass half full than half empty?
Well, first is to understand how it works and why some people are optimistic and some are more pessimistic, with all the range between these two ends. First of all, we are all, as human beings, we're animals, and we tend to perceive much more the negative information we might get, just because of, for a survival question, it was important to hear strange noise or to feel all the things that could be a menace, that could represent a danger. It was very important for us for a long time. Maybe if it's still different now, but there are places where you still want to be really aware if there is any danger. And so it was more important to perceive and to select negative information than positive one, just for a survival reason. It's more important to hear a predator coming than to see a nice flower.
Yes.
So we are tuned this way, and even if our world is a bit different and there is no tiger or, I don't know, lynx hiding around, we're still working our brain and it's still functioning that way. So, and there's been studies that show that there is a ratio of 3-for-1 for the perception, which means that to perceive a positive stimuli, we have positive information, we need to have 3 positive stimulation, as for a negative one, with just 1 stimulation. So we are tuned really to see more the negative than the positive. It's just like this. On the other, and then there is this biological base, and then there is the way that we grow up, the way we've been educated, all the cultural part, all the that will have a big impact on how we see life, if we can see it in an optimistic or pessimistic manner, and how we see ourselves. As you said, when everything is good or when it's for the others, it's very easy to be optimistic. When we see if we have a good self-esteem and if we are really optimistic or not is when it's not okay. And that's when we see if we have that good self-esteem or if we just think we are crap because we couldn't manage it. Or and people who are secure, who are seeing themselves as worth it, as lovable, as with a good self-esteem, as are seeing other people mostly as helpful, obviously, and that know that there is always, or there should always be a solution and a way to find it by themselves or with the help of others, obviously they tend to be more optimistic because they've learned that it should be okay. Maybe life is hard. They're not thinking everything will, it's not everything is always okay. They're not naive. But even if there is difficulties, they have this deep faith in themselves and in the world that it will be okay. And it's like this. And others that I've grown up a bit, that I didn't learn this, that learned that they had to do all by themselves, that other people were not helpful, that it could even be bad, or that there is not always a solution, or if there is one, you have to find it by yourself, but never ask for help. will tend to have bad self-esteem and to be more pessimistic, of course, and have a more negative view of the world, of themselves, of the world. And but the good news
yes,
is that even if you're like this, brain is a wonderful machinery, and with what all we know today about neuronal plasticity and the way our brain is regenerated all the time, you can work on it and you can have an impact on it. I'm not saying you can change it completely, because those patterns, I talked about them at the beginning and coming back to them now, but they're here, they're imprinted, there are neuronal circuits that are there, and you won't just erase them. So even if you work on all this with a very big stress, for example, this mechanism can come back. But you will know them, you will see that you're acting your old same way, like never asking for help. But okay, maybe this time, whoops, coming back, no, I know I can ask for help, I know the people I can ask for help and that will answer me the good way. Let's go back to that way. But to go back to the optimistic, pessimistic stuff, even if you are more pessimistic, or just if you want to see more from the glass half full than half empty, a good way to change that is the 3 positive things a day. It really works. There are studies that show that if every day for 2 months you write every evening 3 positive things of the day, even small ones, so it doesn't have to be. When you do this for 2 months, you are a little more optimistic, and the effect will last for at least 3 months after that. So it works. And the way it works is that in your brain, it will be a bit of a metaphor, it's not exactly like this, but let's imagine negative neuronal circuits and a positive one. When you're in a negative spiral, your negative thoughts and all this will go in these negative circuits, and the neurons will get more connected to each other, and the information will travel more quickly, and the negative response or thinking will be more automatic. But if you stop being negative, if you use less these circuits, the neurons will be less connected, and then it will be less fast, and the negative response will be less automatic. And on the other side, while you do this, usually you try to go on the good one, and the more you will use the good one, the faster it will go, and the faster this response will come also. So you don't erase the first one, but you can really build another one and make it more powerful than the other one. So there is the three positive thoughts, and also 3 things you are grateful for. It's a gratitude task that also work kind of the same way, but for people who want to change in that way, my advice would be to try and do both of them, like every night in a little notebook, write 3 positive stuff of the day and 3 things they're grateful for, however small it is, no matter, it really has no importance, but really it can progressively change a bit the way you see life. So
amazing, very good tips. So there is hope.
Yes, there is.
Fantastic. And the last part, the last question is actually, it's not just one question, but I always try at the end of every session, every interview, to ask the guest speaker to leave us with 3 tips, something that can be very easily implemented as of the next day. So, you know, we can wake up tomorrow morning and say, okay, these are the things that I will do. I will implement in my daily routine, or at least I will give them a go. And with the goal, of course, that then when change hits us, in this case, we are discussing change, we will manage it better than the previous time. So if you can give us some tips, it would be wonderful.
Well, I think, it will be going back to some stuff I already said, obviously.
But what are the 3 most important?
One of the things, really, I think that's important is knowing your resources. in your inner resources and outside resources. And so you can implement them in your life when everything is good, and sticking to them when it's getting hard. But when you are conscious, when you really know that these things are good for you, that they are the good people, that there's a good activities, a good way to do stuff, make that list, keep it, and really stick to it, because that's one of the things that can really help you when changes or any stress events, I mean life just might come, and it will come anyway, because that's how it works. So and the other one, I don't know if I will get 3, but the other one would be well, yeah, we'll find 3. To be, what we were thinking about is to be gentle and caring with yourself, because lots of time we ask that from others. We ask others to do it, but really the only person that can do it for ourselves, know that we're grown-ups, is us. So, and it's very important to try and do it when everything is good, because it's a bit easier. So you can once again stick to it when things are getting tougher.
Because you are already in the routine, right? You are
in the routine, the way you treat yourself, the way you speak to yourself, the way you see yourself. Try to to be the more positive and supportive to yourself, as you would do with a good friend. I mean, most of us were very good to support our friends and not so good to support ourselves. So sometimes thinking, okay, if I was that friend, like when what you were talking about, like caring about yourself as if you were pregnant, it's a bit the same stuff, is trying to do it in that way. And it goes with that, but trying to find well, like as I said, things that are really shown by studies that work, aside from therapy or treatment, is the most effective stuff is physical exercise and meditation. So if you think you want to use that tool when times are not so good, it's better to start when it's okay. And try and see if it's for you or not. Some people don't like meditation, and it's okay. Everybody doesn't have to do yoga and meditation, even if today it seems to be. But for sure, you can find a physical activity that suits you and that you like and that you can stick to later.
Fantastic. These are really good tips. So we were speaking or talking earlier about reaching to experts as well. So I can say that for people who would like to implement a better, healthier diet for their brain and emotional health, I obviously can help with this. I can help with exercise. I can help with talking through the meditation and sleep patterns. For other things, I of course refer to the experts in other areas. So in this case, I have a question whether you are based in Lisbon and your practice is in Lisbon, but do you also do Skype sessions for people who are not here, or how does it work with
usually I do Skype session for people I already know.
Okay.
Because I find that meeting in person and with people that are not going well is important.
Of course.
But I mean, it can you can always talk about it. Sometimes I have people on the phone. I never met them, but already they just want to make an appointment, and we end up speaking for half an hour on the phone. So I mean, it can be discussed. It depends a bit on the case and what's going on.
Of course, but as you say, people at least can reach out, and then you may say to them, "Look, I am here, you are there, so I may not be able to help, but then I can kind of point you in the right direction, right?" Yes. So that's very important. Listen, I really enjoyed it, and I think I enjoyed it even more because I spent the day at this conference and we were talking so much about change. And it's so important for women to know that that this change that we are saying is a constant thing. It really touches each and single one of us. It's sometimes when it happens to us, or most of the times actually, we think that we are the only ones, but we are not. So I believe it's good to raise this awareness. And I really liked your tips, and I loved you gave us some wonderful ideas. The crappy days are lovely. We can laugh at it, but at the same time do something about it and really allow ourselves for this vulnerability. So thank you so very much. It was a great pleasure. And for people watching us later, I just want to say that you can still post comments, because we will be able to answer these questions. And yes, it's important that we have that dialogue if you need it. So thank you so much. Have a good night, and I speak to you soon.
Okay, and thank you very much for trusting me with this. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye.